Revelations.Unveiled.Detroit.
The book of Second Maccabees, chapter 12, verse 1. When those covenants were made, Lysias went unto the king, and the Jews were about their husbandry. But of the governors of several places, Timotheus and Apollonius, the son of Genuus, also Hieronymus and Demophon, and beside them Nicanor, the governor of Cyprus, would not suffer them to be quiet and live in peace. The men of Joppa also did such a God heed. They prayed the Jews that dwelt among them to go with their wives and children into the boats which they had prepared, as though they had meant them no hurt. Who accepted of it according to the common decree of the city, as being desirous to live in peace and suspecting nothing. But when they were gone forth into the deep, they drowned no less than 200 of them. When Judas heard of this cruelty done unto his countrymen, he commanded that those that were with him make them ready. Trouble, family. It's about to be trouble. When Judas heard, and calling upon God, the righteous judge, he came against those murderers of his brethren and burnt the haven by night and set the boats on fire, and those that fled there he slew. And when the town was shut up, he went backward, as if he would return to root all of them out of the city of Joppa. But when he heard the Jamnites were minded to do in like manner unto Jews that dwelt among them, he came upon the Jamnites about also at night, and set fire on the haven and the navy, so that the light of the fire was seen at Jerusalem 240 furlongs off. Now, when they were gone from thence 9 furlongs from their journey toward Timotheus, no fewer than 5,000 men on foot and 500 horsemen of the Arabians set upon them, whereupon there was a very sore battle. But Judas side, by the help of God, got the victory, so that the nomads of Arabia, being overcome, besought Judas for peace, promising both to give him cattle and to pleasure him otherwise. Then Judas, thinking indeed that he would be profitable in many things, granted them peace, whereupon they shook hands, and so they departed to their tents. He went also to make a bridge to a certain strong city, which was fenced about with walls and inhabited by people of diverse countries, and the name of it was Caspis. But they that were within put such trust in the strength of the walls and provision of victuals, that they behaved themselves rudely toward them that were with Judas, railing and blaspheming and uttering such words as were not to be spoken. Wherefore Judas with his company, calling upon the great Lord of the world, who without rams or engines of war did cast down Jericho in the time of Joshua, gave a fierce assault against the walls, and took the city by the will of God, and made unspeakable slaughters, insomuch that a lake 2 furlongs broad near adjoining thereunto, being full filled, was seen running with blood. Wow, family. So Judas and his army went in and set upon the mass with great massacre. Verse 17. Then departed they from thence several hundred and 50 furlongs, and came to Charaka, unto the Jews that are called to Beni. But as for Timotheus, they found him not in the place. For before he had dispatched anything, he departed from there, having left a very strong garrison in a certain hold. Howbeit, the Scythians and Sosipater, who were of Maccabees captains, were forth or went forth and slew those that Timotheus had left in the fortress, above 10,000 men. 10,000 men slew of Timotheus's armies, family. Now, when Timotheus had knowledge of Judas's coming, he sent the women and children of and the other baggage unto a fortress called Carnion, for the town was hard to besiege and uneasy to come unto by reason of the straitness of all places. But when Judas had but when Judas his first band came in sight, the enemies, being smitten with fear and terror through the appearing of him who seeth all things, fled amain, one running into this way, another that way, so that as they were running, many were often hurt of their own men and wounded with the points of their own swords. Judas was also very earnest in pursuing them, killing those wicked wretches, of whom he slew about 30,000 men. Moreover, Timotheus himself fell into the hands of Dositheus and Sosipater, whom he besought with much craft to let him go with his life, because he had many of the Jews' parents and the brethren of some of them, who, if they put him to death, should not be regarded. So when he had assured them with many words that he will restore them without hurt, according to the agreement, they let him go for the saving of their brothers. Then Maccabeus marched forth to Carnion and to the temple of Argartis, and there he slew 25,000 persons. And after he had put to flight and destroyed them, Judas removed the host toward Ephraim, a strong city wherein Lysias abode, and the great multitude of diverse nations, and the strong young men kept the walls and defended them mightily, wherein also was great provisions of engines and darts. Verse 28. But when Judas and his company had called upon Almighty God, who with his power breaketh the strength of the enemies, they won the city and slew 25,000 of them that were within. From there they departed to Scythopolis, which lieth 600 furlongs from Jerusalem. But when the Jews that dwelt there had testified that the Scythopolians dealt lovingly with them, they entreated them kindly in the time of their adversity. They gave them thanks, desiring them to be friendly still unto them. So they came to Jerusalem, the feast of weeks approaching. And after the feast, called Pentecost, they went forth against Gorgias, the governor of Idumea, who came out with 3,000 men of foot and 400 horsemen. And it happened that in their fighting together, a few of the Jews were slain, at which time Dositheus, one of Bacanor's companies, who was on horseback, and a strong man, was still upon Gorgias, and taking hold of his court, drew him by force. And when he would have taken the cursed man alive, or horseman of Thracia, coming upon him, smote off his shoulder, so that Gorgias fled unto Marissa. Now, when they that were with Gorgias had fought long and were weary, Judas called upon the Lord that he would show himself to be their helper and leader of the battle. And with that, he began in his own language, sung psalms, and with a loud voice and rushing unawares upon Gorgias' men, he put them to flight. So Judas gathered his hosts and came into the city of Adullam. And when the seventh day came, they purified themselves as the custom was, and kept the Sabbath in the same place. And upon the day following, as the use had been, Judas and his company came to take up the bodies of them that were slain, and to bury them with their kinsmen in their fathers' graves. Verse 40. Now under the coats of every one that was slain, they found things consecrated to idols of the Jamnites, which is forbidden by the Jews and by the law. Then every man saw that this was the cause wherefore they were slain. All men therefore praising the Lord and righteous judge, who had opened the things that were hid, betook themselves unto prayer, and besought him that the sin committed might wholly be put out of remembrance. Besides, that noble Judas exhorted the people to keep themselves from sin, for so much as they saw before their eyes the things that came to pass for the sins of those that were slain. And when he had made a gathering throughout the company to the sum of 2,000 drachms of silver, he sent it to Jerusalem to offer a sin offering, doing therein very well and honestly, in that he was mindful of the resurrection. For if he had not hoped that they had, or they were slain, should have risen again, it had been superfluous and vain to pray for the dead. Verse 44. For if he had not hoped that they that were slain should have risen again, it had been superfluous and vain to pray for the dead. Verse 45. And also in that he perceived that there was a great favor laid up for those that died godly. It was an holy and good thought, whereupon he made a reconciliation for the dead, that they might be delivered from sin. And until we are together again, I love you. I love you. I love you. To be continued. Revelations.Unveiled.Detroit.